I am Constance Dansel, Director of Neighborhood Improvement Services, and welcome and thank you for being with us tonight for our 21st Annual Women's Forum, hosted by the Department of Neighborhood Improvement Services Human Relations Division. Thank you again for being with us tonight. First, to our guests who are in person, I hope you received an index card or two as you came into the room. If you didn't, we can make sure that you have some index cards, because we would like for you to participate as much as possible. We want this to be an active process. So for those people who are attending virtually and would like to hear the forum in Spanish, please use your phone to scan the code on the screen. Every year for the last 21 years, we have been blessed and pleased to have Mr. Larry Thomas. I'm looking for Mr. Larry Thomas, but he's busy. When he comes in, I want to make sure that you see him, because he has been a dedicated servant to the cause of women. And his Thomas Mentor Leadership Academy cadets. They are with us every year, and tonight they are with us to escort our panelists and our honored guests. Now, please allow me to introduce tonight's moderator and panelist. First, our wonderful and awesome, best ever moderator for tonight is our Director of the City's Communications Department, Beverly Thompson. And Beverly is going to be escorted by Cadet Tamar Adams. She's coming, she's communicating out there. Beverly Thompson is being escorted by Tamar Adams. Again, I want to say that Beverly and her staff have worked with us for the last 21 years to put on this event. And she is wonderful, awesome, best ever moderator and director of our Department of Communications. Thank you, Beverly, and thank your staff. Our panelists are Giseli Ochoa, and she's escorted by Cagle Applewhite. Our next panelist is Maralis Emerson, escorted by Princeton Watkins. Our next panelist is Umstead, Akeeya Umstead, escorted by Matthew Brew. Our next panelist is Tessa Jackson, escorted by Princeton Watkins. Our next panelist is Nikki Cagle, escorted by Caleb Harris. Our next panelist is Anaja McClinton, escorted by Michael Torrain. Our next panelist is Ms. Williams, escorted by Daniel Sumter. And that's Imanie. That's Imanie Williams. Thank you, cadets. And if I could just get Mr. Thomas, Larry Thomas, to raise his hand, so we'll know who he is. Thank you. March is the month dedicated to recognizing women and their contributions to society. We all have women that we hold dear to our hearts because of the positive impact they have had on us. For me, there are many women. Three that stand out for me are Shirley Chisholm, the first Black woman elected to the U.S. House of Congress, representative of Congress from Brooklyn, New York. In 1972, she made an unprecedented bid for the presidential nomination for the Democratic Party, and she founded a national political Congress for Black women. The next lady, Fannie Lou Hamer, which is one of my favorites, rose from humble beginnings in the Mississippi Delta to become one of the most important, passionate, and powerful voices of the civil and voting rights movement, and a leader in efforts for greater economic opportunities for African Americans. Some of you may know her by her phrase, "I am sick and tired of being sick and tired." And the third woman is my grandmother, who taught me the essence of love and service for my neighbor. Another woman that I want to share a few words with you is Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She was the second woman and the first Jewish woman to serve as a Supreme Court Justice for the United States of America. She spent her life advocating for women's rights and pushing society as a whole towards equality for women. Justice Ginsburg said that we should take part in efforts to move communities, the nation, and the world closer to conditions needed to ensure the health and well-being of our generation and the ones to come. Tonight, we would like to honor the contributions of three women, three city officials who have followed in the footsteps of those women who laid the foundations for them. They are the three women who run the city of Durham. They are the three women who run the city of Durham, and this is the first time in Durham's history that its executive administrators are all women. They are committed and dedicated to making the city of Durham a great place to work, live, and play. One of our first honorees is City Manager Wanda Page, escorted by Cadet Michael Terrain. Okay, we're waiting for Ms. Page to come down from her office. She's very busy. While she's coming down, we will go on to our city attorney. Our city attorney is Kimberly Rayberg, escorted by Cadet Preston Watkins. Stand by me. Come stand by me. Come stand by me. Okay. Thank you. I would like to just tell you a little bit about Ms. Kimberly Rayberg. She's been working with the city of Durham for over 19 years, starting as a senior assistant attorney. She has provided exceptional counsel for the city administration, the city council, and staff. Kimberly and her highly qualified, experienced legal team are always available to support us in making sure that we serve residents in a way that is good and right for the city government and our residents. I can tell you, when I first started working in the city and she was working with us to make sure that we understood how to listen and answer questions, she said to me, Constance, she taught me, listen carefully to the question and answer only the question that is being asked. Remember that?
I do remember.
And so we want to give you an award tonight. And the award says, we hereby present you with the award in recognition of your ongoing dedication and commitment to the city of Durham. We appreciate your devotion to the success of the city and the women who live and thrive in it. Okay. Could I get the award? Could I get the award? We're going to give you an award, okay?
Oh.
So while we're waiting for the award to come, we're just going to do a Bull City Strong. That's who we are, right? Okay, while we're waiting for the city manager to come down, we're going to go ahead and get started with Beverly, who's going to move the program forward. And then when the city manager comes down, we can stop long enough for her to receive her award. Okay? Oh, okay.
Good evening. Good evening. We are grateful for your attendance this evening. Your presence is a contribution to our community. My hope is that tonight's conversation might inspire us all to see the possibilities in collaboration as we intentionally celebrate diversity, equity, and inclusion. Everyone present has an opportunity to leverage your educational and life experiences to repair the community, your empathy to repair hearts, and your determination to push the community forward. We would like to recognize people who are making a difference in our community. For over 20 years, this first person has worked to preserve and improve the quality of life for Durham residents. This person has worked tirelessly within the community. She walks in excellence and with elegance. This award is presented to my director, Constance Stansel, for providing thoughtful guidance and inspiring excellence. Thank you, Constance, for leading with commitment, honor, and integrity. And also, we would like to recognize the following women. But before I do that, I would like to give this to my director, Constance Stansel. Gotcha. Okay, so the other women that we would like to recognize tonight is Morgan McNeil for working with local organizations to create a brighter future for the Durham community. Tomi Akeeya for her contribution to cancer research and outreach surrounding diversity, equity, and inclusion. Temet Farrington for her dedication to guiding women through challenging transitions and helping them rediscover themselves. Tia Wilson Hall for her service in racial equity, healing, and wholeness. Kathleen Sutton for her work with the Hayti Heritage Center and for striving to educate and inform women about AIDS. Naila Anderson for promoting minority women to own spaces in which they are not traditionally seen. Ms. Bernie Scott for her leadership in social justice and curating stories about the realities Black women face. And Vanessa Evans for organizing and leading efforts to build community in Bragtown. Thank you all to these women for their contributions in the city of Durham.
Well, good evening, everybody. So good to see this group of beautiful women in this building, and I am so excited to be your moderator once again this year. Our panelists are a group of women who have chosen to share their experiences and their perspectives on how we can all work together to create a more inclusive community. First, we have with us on the end, you see their name tags, Giseli Ordonez, Ochoa, a student at the Durham School of the Arts. She is a volunteer who works with the Hispanic community. Giseli is an honor roll student who pushes herself to go beyond perceived limits and learn new things. She also speaks French and Spanish, in addition to English, and she can communicate in American Sign Language. Let's give her a hand. Next with us is Maralis Mercado Emerson. She is a clinical research coordinator at the Duke University School of Nursing. She is also the chairperson for the Mayor's Hispanic Latino Committee and a consultant with Reclaim the Well. Maralis collaborates with community organizations and in academia to engage citizens to promote equitable, inclusive, and diverse opportunities for change. Let's give her a hand. Don't you love celebrating women? Next with us is Akeeya Umstead. Akeeya is a member of the Durham Mayor's Council for Women. She is the founder of Mistaken ID Gives Back Foundation. That's Miss with an M-I-S-S, Staken, okay? Which is dedicated to orchestrating pop-up community service initiatives in food insecure areas and fostering professional skill development in underserved communities. Let's give her a hand. Next with us is Tessa Jackson. She is the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Coordinator at Duke Nicholas School for the Environment. She is committed to supporting underrepresented communities and fostering belonging. She is adept at building meaningful connections, empowering students on their academic journey, ensuring that they feel supported in every way. Let's give her a hand. Next with us is Nicolette Cagle, Ph.D., and she is the inaugural Duke University Associate Dean of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Dr. Cagle has launched Diversity and Equity in Environmental Programs Collaborative, bringing together over 35 community organizations working at the intersection of DEI, environment, and K-12 education. Let's give her a hand. And with us is Anaja McClinton. She is in the Youth Involvement Program Coordinator at the North Carolina Council for Women and Youth Involvement. Working for the Council for Women and Youth Involvement has provided her an opportunity to grant young adults opportunities to have a voice and gain experiences in different areas of state government. She is a strong advocate for women and youth in North Carolina. Let's give her a hand. And last but certainly not least is Imanie Williams. She is the youth consultant with the Durham Office on Youth, right here with the city of Durham. Imanie also volunteers as a grant writing assistant and youth group facilitator for Stand Up, Speak Out, and a family advocate for the Village Durham. She is committed to advocating for the underserved, overtaught, and overlooked. Imanie continues to use her presence and voice to make a difference. Let's give her a hand. So if you would like to learn more about these young women and their roles in the community, refer to your booklets that you picked up coming in. Their bios are captured there. So, are you all ready? Okay. Let's get started with your first question. And this is something that I want everybody to answer. What does equity and inclusion mean to you? And how does it relate to diversity? Start here.
So, equity means to me as a community getting together equally, like distributing their own beliefs, religion, like whatever they believe in, and becoming like one community. What a community that doesn't diverse or like racism or any of that. They just come together, think of like one big family. Yeah. And inclusion means to me as a community demonstrating, collaborating together and becoming like one community that doesn't diverse into other things.
Okay, thank you. Maralis?
So for me, equity and inclusion looks like building resources, access, and spaces where people can be truly themselves and be able to grow with one another in their own right and in the beliefs that they have. And so whether that's religious or their sexuality or their race or any other marker, but specifically spaces that feel safe.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I believe diversity, equity, inclusion means having a voice where we always didn't. It means coming together and making things happen in a way that we couldn't. And that's what it means to me, making a space and a voice for yourself.
Great.
And not just myself, I mean all of ourselves collectively.
Thank you. Tessa?
Good afternoon. Equity means to me recognizing that we all have different advantages and disadvantages that we're born with. So of course we have to make sure we recognize these things because some people may need different treatment, some people may need different combinations, but if we are equitable in the services we provide, that we can have equal outcomes for all our identities. And then diversity is simply a fact of life. We are all diverse here in many ways. So sexual orientation, your race, your ethnicity, we had to make sure we respect and honor these things and so we can have a better society and so that people can have equal outcomes and fair treatment. Thank you.
Great. Nicolette?
Great. Thank you all for having me here today. And this is just, it's amazing to be with all these wonderful people on this panel. So equity, when we define it, the textbook definition has something to do with fair and just policies to ensure that everyone can thrive. But for me, one of the things that I think equity requires is empathy. And I heard empathy being brought up as one of the key words tonight. And it's really the capacity to understand the feelings and experiences of others. And empathy comes into equity in understanding the barriers and benefits for people. Inclusion, like the textbook definition of inclusion, is something like all community members are feeling and are respected. They have a sense of belonging. They're able to participate and achieve their potential. But for me, a key part of inclusion is insights. And insight's really this ability to gain an accurate and deep intuitive understanding of the human experience. So for an example, this would be like the work of Brene Brown, where she has showed us through data that people's biggest fear at work is being irrelevant. And so if we want to be inclusive at work, we want to help people be enough and treat people as if they are enough in the workplace. That's part of inclusion and why insight is so important to it. And then diversity is human difference. And like my goal is I want all people to thrive. I want people to have lives of meaning and value and success as they define it. And equity and inclusion are the routes to doing that work.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Anaja?
Good evening. I just want to say thank you all for having me this afternoon. Equity and inclusion mean to me is bringing people in from different backgrounds into one cohesive space to give everybody the same opportunity, because a lot of people aren't granted that opportunity. Being a Black woman, a lot of us don't get the same opportunity as others. And diversity is always important to me because I want to be in a space where I can identify with someone else around me and be able to have that connection with someone in the workspace, whether that's in school or in the workspace or anything like that. So yeah, that's what diversity, equity, and inclusion means to me.
All right, thank you. Imanie?
Yes, it's hard to top everybody now. I'm gonna try to bring it home. For me, it becomes more about action and intention. I think that when we hear equity and we hear inclusion, we start to think of systems that aren't equitable and aren't inclusive. But I think that we miss the mark that people aren't systems, so they can't be managed. And it's a step further into now it has to be a conversation around mindsets. So it's the mindsets of those who are creating and enforcing these systems that will foreshadow how equitable and inclusive it looks in practice. So in my opinion, as with these two concepts, I think they are the prereqs for diversity, and diversity can't exist without harm or effectively if they aren't being practiced.
Wow. She brought it home. Yeah. All right, thank you. Very insightful answers. So my next question is for either Akeeya or Nikki or Imanie or Giseli. How might we create a more equitable society? And I'll let you choose who responds.
So I believe in this movement called Success Looks Different for Everyone. And if everyone believed in that concept, that my success, your neighbor's success, everyone's success looks completely different. Everyone's path is different. Everyone's experiences are different. If everyone did that and paid attention to your own path, your own journey, but then shared with others what you learned along the way, then people would see equally how everything can be equitable, because you literally are running a race that is not the same as the next person, but you have to acknowledge them as you run your race too.
Okay. Who wants to take a step? Nicolette?
I think there's so much that goes into this, but one part of creating an equitable society is doing the hard work of creatively overcoming barriers, creatively overcoming resistance. And so there's a lot of research out there about what resistance looks like. Resistance looks like denial, the idea that we don't have a problem, or fear, or institutional norms, or lack of creativity, or cynicism. And there are also some ways to overcome those things. Sometimes it might be data, sometimes it might be policy changes that include flexibility in them, sometimes it might just be focusing on the easy wins. I think another way to create an equitable society is I'm kind of on this empathy kick lately. I've been reading this book on empathy and thinking about this concept of expanding circles. So, you know, like almost everybody is capable of empathy, but often our circle is very small. It might be friends and family. But we can actually teach people to expand their circles of empathy. It is a learnable skill. It's a neurobiological skill. And so one of the things that I think about is how do we teach people, and when do we teach people, and what are the right places to do that work? So I think starting when people are young is a great idea, but a lot of the problems that we have today are in the hands of people that are not young. So thinking about helping everybody expand their circles of empathy.
Thank you. Anybody else want to take a stab at that?
Can I just add on to what she was sharing? I kind of want to give a shout out to the teachers at Durham Public Schools and the IAs and the staff, because they've switched over to this model of social and emotional learning that are teaching our kids now, starting in elementary school and pre-K and kindergarten, about their feelings and how to start regulating those feelings and how to treat others, and these lessons on empathy. And I see it in my children when they come home and my eldest son is like, right now I'm red and I'm really angry. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's because as a child, most of us didn't get the opportunity to say how we felt, that we didn't have feelings. You're a child. Right? And to see my son feel like he can say this, and sometimes, let's be real, I have to check and be like, your tone is a little, your message is getting lost in your mess right now, so let's fix your tone. But I understand what you're saying with your feelings. And so that's not just at home. We really do need to give these teachers their flowers for the really extensive hard work that they're doing and trying to work with our children, given all the obstacles that they face. But starting this empathy walk with them, absolutely.
Well, Maralis, if they don't get it at home, it really creates a challenge.
Absolutely.
How do teachers overcome that?
Lots of grace. Lots of grace. I think, there are situations where, as both an academic advisor and as someone who works in the community, I have seen parents are exhausted and they don't have the time, or they're working 2 to 3 jobs, or they don't have the emotional and mental capacity to deal with their child in a way that would help model that empathy for that child, because they were never shown that empathy. And so when we promote things and make them accessible, let's be real about that, right? When we promote things and make things like mental health access accessible, where I'm not paying $300 out of pocket every time to see a therapist, or within our Black, brown communities, we talk about mental health and going to the therapist like it's a good thing. I think we start to break down some of these walls that we have built up generationally, so that we can begin having these conversations about it's okay to talk about your feelings. It's okay to heal that thing that you've been holding on to for so long. It's okay to be mad, right? We hear the trope all the time. You're angry. No, I'm exhausted, and beyond that, I'm not even exhausted. I'm fatigued. And there's no space for me to be able to say I'm fatigued without being like, well, you're a mom, that's your job. Yes, and before I was a mom, before I was all those things, I was always Maralis, right? And so even when I go into spaces and people are like, oh, you're Simon's mom. My name is Maralis, right? So reclaiming that sense of self, even when we, as in our upbringing, may have seen these challenges, or these traumas that were not meant for us, reclaiming that person and re-healing that person is essential, right? And understanding that healing is not linear, it's cyclical. So that thing might come up a couple times before, you're like, oh, okay, I can see that person and I don't want to fight them anymore, right? I'm just being honest, right? And so, or, I can go into that space and it doesn't scare me anymore to be in that space because I've done the work. I think that's the next question is about barriers. But for me, when we talk about barriers, I've been in spaces where I get degree checked all the time. right? I work in academia, but my love is in the community. And so I've been in spaces where I'm at a table of PhDs and I'm sitting in the back just listening. And then, I raise my church finger and I'm like, so how about we actually go to the people that you need to have these conversations with? What does it look like to go to the people? Who are you? What's your background? I do the work. You can write the papers, but I do the work. Right? So, there's spaces to be created where we can work collaboratively between academia and between the community, where growth is taking place, where resources such as grant funding is shared and not hoarded, where grassroots organizing efforts are seen as interventions that actually work because we know they work. We've been building them since the early 60s and 70s. You start looking at, we have free lunches because of the Black Panther movement, right? And so, we have after-school tutoring because of the Young Lords. And so these are things that you have to consider when I've worked with HIV organizations where all their clientele is taken care of, and folks are on PrEP and getting access to services, but it's not because of the grant funding coming from the top down. It's because of the hustle happening from the floor up. And those things need to be recognized. Those organizations need to be recognized because we didn't do it by ourselves.
Reach. Okay, she alluded to my next question, which is, what barriers or obstacles have you or your peers faced in pursuit of your goals as it relates to diversity, equity, and/or inclusion? So, Maralis, you started with that question, sorry, and Anaja and Tessa, I think, are primed for that question, right? Okay, whoever wants to go first.
Okay, I'll start. So I will talk about 3 things that I have been currently facing. One is building trust, another is building capacity, as we've been already talking about, but then also understanding that DEI work is everyone's work. So with building trust, you have to understand that DEI work for some people can be scary. Sometimes people don't want to be called racist or that they're discriminatory or that what they've been doing is wrong. Sometimes people don't want to feel that they're innately bad, and you're not necessarily innately bad. It's just that we have to recognize that these systems that we've had beforehand are not always the best systems to keep having, right? You have to recognize that there's a problem. But I feel like with building trust, if you start getting to know people on the human level, that's the one thing we all have in common. We're all humans, right? And I feel like when you can bring it back down to that base level, that we all are humans, that we all have these lived experiences that are different, but just trying to humanize our experiences just all together, I feel like can start help building that trust with one another, because people will start being empathetic, as you alluded to earlier. Empathy is a key thing in DEI work. So just kind of bringing it back down to that mindset that we are humans first, and I'm just here to help you, but not to make your job harder, I feel like can really lead to building trust with one another. With building capacity, we've already talked about it as well, so this is really good. Building capacity, people are tired, they're fatigued, they don't have time even for themselves to take care of themselves. Maybe you're a single mother, whatever it may be. People feel that when you add on this extra work of promoting these DEI initiatives, they're already tired. They're like, why are you adding something else to my job? But going into my third point of understanding that DEI work is everyone's work, if you give them the proper support, if it's grant funding, if it's funding another position, if it's funding a DEI committee, if it's funding a DEI position, I work as a DEI coordinator because we needed that support. I feel like it really helps with understanding that DEI work is everyone's work and that we can all support each other, and that this work and these initiatives that we're driving is not to add more work to your plate, but to make your job easier and to make sure that you have this perfect, well, not perfect, but a more just work-life balance, that you are providing the services that you need to provide. So those are just a few of the things that I have been facing, but I think at the end of the day, we can just all remember we are humans first. We all have these different experiences. We all have different identities, and we're all just trying to make it and just bring empathy and love to the front. I know that sounds cliche, but really empathy is really the biggest thing when it comes to the barriers you're facing. But if you can remind people of that, I think you can be able to promote your DEI initiatives.
Okay, Anaja?
In the work that I do, I work with a lot of youth within North Carolina, and a lot of them feel like they're not heard. So in my initiative to kind of push DEI is to let them know that even though you are young, you still have a voice. It does not matter how old you are, how you look, or where you're from. You still have a voice to make a difference within your community and push that initiative no matter what you're doing. I always tell them, because I'm like one of the youngest one in my office, and it's just like, people try to shut you up because you're young. They think it's because you are this person that's straight out of college, straight out of high school, or still in high school, that you don't have a voice and you don't have an opinion. But I'm here to break those barriers down, to let them know I'm here. I'm here to stay, and I'm here to continue to do what I do, so to make the youth feel heard and make them feel like this is where I need to be. This is a community I want to push forward, and I'm going to continue to do that. So that's what I feel like is the best way to do for DEI. And like you said, DEI is everybody's work. If no one else is doing it, it's just like, then it's not working.
So I think Anaja would live out Shirley Chisholm's saying, you know, if there's no seat at the table for you, bring your own, okay? Just make sure you have a seat at the table, right? All right. Okay. Next question. Who has been a mentor, a role model that has had an impact on your life? And how did you get connected with them? I mean, we heard on Director Stansel talk about her mentors and people who meant a lot to her. So who had an impact on your life and helped make you who you are today? Okay, Anaja, Akeeya, Imanie, Giseli. How about Giseli? Let's start.
Okay, good.
Okay.
A role model for me was, well, my mother, because she's here today.
Oh.
She's always been pushing me to my limits, never, always told me, keep on going, never give up. And she's always been here since I was born.
Of course.
And she always goes, don't let anybody tell you to do something where you're not supposed to be. Just do it, see what happens, and
Okay. Good. Okay, Imanie?
Yes, so I am not from Durham, North Carolina. I'm from Newark, New Jersey. I moved here in 2020 right after college. So coming down here, I felt very alone. I don't talk like everyone from down here, so I would speak sometimes, and I felt like my passion was being misconstrued for aggressiveness. And then I met Joy Spencer, who is the Executive Director of Equity Before Birth. And meeting Joy, I had met her when I was working as a case manager for a local shelter, and that conversation was just supposed to be about service connections, and somehow we started talking about race and exhaustion. But it was confirmation for me because I wanted to give up, and now I'm sitting across from somebody who looks like me, and not only did she get it, but she saw me. Joy afterwards gave me a platform within her organization to be able to express my creativity, to help her organization advance, and it really, really helped me out in a lot of ways professionally. But just the way that she carries herself personally has been just the biggest thing to look up to.
Wow. Don't we all need somebody like that? Wish we could find somebody like that. So I applaud you. It's great. Does anyone else want to answer that question?
I will start by saying the mentors in my life have always been my grandmother, my mother, my aunts, my stepmom, and all the women in my family who have raised me to be the strong, independent woman that I am today. But also, I want to also say that my mentor was one of my English professors in college. I went to a predominantly white institution. She was the only black female professor at that university. She taught me to dig deeper, to always reach for the stars, and to never let anybody hold you back no matter how hard things may get, and to always give yourself grace as well. Because it's like whenever you're in school, you're thinking, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to make sure everything is done, but at the same time, you have to take a step back and say, okay, I need to take a break for myself. And it's okay to take a break for yourself because sometimes life does get super hard. So it's like she just taught me how the ways of the world in a way, and she taught me to just keep pushing forward, but also just calm down, because I can get really stressed out and I can get really all over the place. But she taught me it's just like, it's okay to calm down, Anaja. You're fine. Everything will work out. So, yeah.
How old are y'all? Man. Yes. I wish I'd learned these lessons a long time ago. Akeeya.
All right, so I've been blessed with many wonderful women in my life, but I have 3 angels that watch over me daily. The first being my mother, who passed away when I was at the age of 15. She was an educator in Durham Public Schools. Her name was Cassandra Wallace Umstead. The second was my grandmother, who was actually my god-grandmother. She was also an educator, and she actually touched a lot of lives in Durham as well. Her name was Ruth Thomas Wynn. And then finally, my angel, who literally stays with me on a daily, who has been the mentor to make sure I sat on boards, to make sure I knew what to do with education, go to workshops, do everything, and learning. My mentor that I hold the highest esteem for was my aunt, Mary Ann Black. And I'm sure she touched a lot of you as well, because she was a servant leader. And learning from someone like that over your life, from from childhood to adulthood, and having her there at the touch of a button was an amazing experience.
Oh, my.
But you all know that too, if you've ever crossed her path, how much of a leader and a mentor she was to many people.
Yes, for sure. Miss her. So, I'm sorry, sure. Go ahead.
I just want to recognize that these were amazing opportunities and amazing humans that you shared. And I need to recognize Omi, who's sitting right here in front. And here's why. I moved to Durham in 2010, and one of the first people I met was Omi. And I remember when you're an adult, when you become an adult over 35, it's really hard to make friends and really hard to find mentors. And growing up, I didn't have many mentors other than family members, and so to see Black and Latina women like doing their thing was really hard because I didn't have that. And I remember sitting with Omi at a local restaurant, and I said, Omi, would you consider being my mentor? And she's like, no. I'm gonna be your friend. I'm gonna be your sister friend. And that rocked me from that day on, because Omi created a space, and she does this for other people as well, where they can learn and grow and walk alongside her instead of behind her, right? And so there are many people now, as in, it sounds weird to say older adult, but as someone in their 40s, to say, no, I know this person, and this is their work, and this is how they do, and I have someone else at work, Dr. Shanita Randolph, who says, what we're not gonna do is that, and we're gonna do it in excellence. And so I think when people create the spaces to provide mentorship, it's a lot easier for us to not be afraid to ask for the help. And so that's, I feel like that's my call to folks. Like, if you have the time, please, like, create the space for the opportunity for someone else to come up, so that we don't make the same mistakes. Oh, because I made some mistakes.
Haven't we all?
Yeah, so.
Wow. I'm touched too. That is so sweet. So all of you belong to different organizations. What have been some opportunities that your organization has offered to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion? For everyone.
An organization, I would say, is my church. My church is very, very welcoming. And being a pastor's daughter also, I volunteer helping out with the community. I make sure everybody's included, everybody's able to speak, like whatever they want to, they're mine. And I just want to, my organization helps, well, the church helps with people who are people who don't have the capacity to pay their bills and stuff, and my church would provide money to help out families in the community. So.
Sounds good. Maralis?
So as the chair to the Mayor's Hispanic Latino Committee, we hope that we have created a space where both, not just the Hispanic Latino community, can come together to learn about the many different cultures, because we are not a monolith, but also to learn skills to be able to advocate for the needs of the community, to work with other organizations and nonprofits that try to work with us, and to gain access and create spaces where specifically the Latino community, which represents about 13% of the population here in Durham, know they have somewhere to go to where they can talk to someone that speaks Spanish or their native language and feels like they have someone on their side. And so that's who we are representing. Giseli is actually our first youth representative in the existence of the Mayor's Hispanic Latino community. And so that's a big deal because we recognize that without young people, we weren't going to go anywhere. So.
All right. Akeeya.
Thank you. I sit on the Durham Mayor's Councils for Women, and we are the liaison group for women and government officials. So if you haven't heard about us, today I'm here representing us because we're supposed to make sure that you know that you have a voice in the city of Durham. If you want to use it and you're not sure of who to reach out to for your specific issue or what you have going on, we're here to help you do that. And so we definitely want the community to know that women have a voice in Durham, and we are standing here for you to make sure that you have that same voice.
So how can people get in contact with you or learn more about the Mayor's Commission?
Well, so I always am an advocate for all of the Durham commissions, so let me not just stop at the Durham Mayor's Women's Council. There are many commissions across the city of Durham, and they cater to any interest that you may have, whether it's arts, cultural, fair housing, safety. There are tons of commissions that you can serve on because you are a resident of Durham. And so it's on the Durham City website where you can go and find each commission, what they offer, if there are vacancies. There's always a posting that people miss. It's on Instagram, Facebook, everywhere, and it says, we have vacancies for all of these commissions and boards in our city, also in our county as well. But if you don't think to, you have to go look for that on the Durham City website. And when you click through it, you can decide what serves you.
Well said. That's a commercial we can use, I think. That was really good. All right, Tessa.
Okay, so I'll quickly talk about the Nicholas School of the Environment. That's where I work for at Duke University. And what we know with inclusion, it denotes belonging. And we haven't really thrown around that term today, but belonging is making sure everyone feels that sense that they belong where they are, right? And two things that I really like that we do for the students and faculty and staff is we have this program called Let's Do Lunch, and we also have a program called Walking Talk. Now, it may seem really simple, but with Let's Do Lunch, you can invite anyone you want, like up to 5 people. It could be anyone that you already know or someone that you're trying to get to know. But with that, we have realized that students, one, feel connected more with the faculty and staff around them. They feel more connected with students. But also, let's recognize that food insecurity is a real thing, and that even though you may be able to go to college, I worked 4 jobs when I was in college, so I'm always going to advocate for a free meal. So that's a great thing. I definitely noticed that, people love a good free meal, and so we make sure we promote that program as well. And then the same thing with Walk and Talk. It's mostly like if you want to get coffee, you can walk and talk with someone that's with staff and faculty, so you can get to know who you're working with. Because like I said, DEI work is everyone's work, so it's a great opportunity to talk about that and build that trust.
Thank you.
But lastly, I want to shout out my sorority. I'm a proud member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. So, okay, come on, I love it. So, as y'all know, we support each other, sisterhood, father womanhood, those things. But if you ever want to join the sorority, it's a good opportunity as well.
Here you have it. Nicolette?
So the Nicholas School also has a program that was mentioned earlier, which is the DEEP Collaborative. This is diversity and equity and environmental programs. It has between 35 and 70 organizations in Durham, Chapel Hill, and Raleigh that are involved. The DEEP Collaborative has been ongoing since at least 2017, and we offer a bunch of different skill building opportunities. So this might look like developing equity evaluations for a nonprofit organization that works in the environment. This might look like some other sort of plan for an organization around diversity, equity, inclusion, like an implementation plan, or learning about a specific topic. So in May, there's going to be, if you're all signed up for the Durham Environmental Council, DEC, you'll be seeing an advertisement from the DEEP Collaborative going out soon, because in May we're having a session on birding and race that's going to be at the North Carolina Museum of Art.
Great, thank you. Anaja.
So within youth involvement, we have 3 programs that I oversee, one being the State of North Carolina Internship Program. That is a program for college students, whether you are in a 4-year university or community college. It is a 10-week program for $15 an hour. Students get to come in and intern through different parts of the state and get to learn experience. Another one is Lady Cardinal Mentorship Program, which is near and dear to my heart. It was created in 2019 based off the Status of Women report of 2018, basically saying that women will not make the same as men until 2064. So this program is for young girls who are interested in STEM to come into state government to shadow different secretaries within the departments and get to know more about the STEM and what state government offers. They're with us for 4 weeks. 3 days out of the week, they're with their department. 2 days of the week, we are with us, learning about different parts of the state and doing different enhanced opportunities and working on a group project. They also get a $1,700 stipend at the end. And then we have State Youth Council, which are different youth councils across North Carolina who work to make their community better, whether that is through civic engagement or through community service projects. And community service projects can be like either cleaning a road or doing read-alongs with students, with kids within the community, and then also like going to speak at their city council meetings to speak about issues that really impact them within their community. So that's the 3 programs that I oversee and how to make DEI applicable in our state.
Okay, thank you. Imanie.
Yeah, I'll keep this very short. Since I've been working with the Office on Youth, and even prior to me getting there, the office has always been youth-focused, youth-led, and youth-centered. And that goes into every program that comes out of the office, including grants. Speaking of grants, one of our grantees will be having an art meetup on April 7th called Haptic Happenings. So if you are connected to youth or you know any youth who are interested between the ages of 13 to 24, it is free to come in and submit your art, and the meetup will be happening in April.
All right.
Thank you.
So we have time for a few more questions, and I was wondering about social media. Okay. There's been a lot of discussion back and forth about the impact of social media on women and equity issues. Whoever wants to answer this can do it. What do you think has been the impact on social media, from social media on equity, and the impact on women as well? Women, how they look at themselves even, you know, their own self-esteem.
So I'm still on my empathy kick. And there's all this data that shows that in recent years, empathy has just been plummeting, like particularly among youth, but among everybody. And there is an association with that plummeting in empathy levels. And like, to me, this blows my mind because, I don't know, growing up, I didn't think empathy levels were all that high, and now they're getting even worse. But it seems like the way that we engage with social media is closely related to that decrease in empathy. So that's where I am. I feel like if the end result of social media is that we lose empathy, then we're going in the wrong direction, and that's not helping with our equity work. But social media can be used for different purposes, and can be used for good, right? To show people that events are there, to help people find support and resources. It's something we're really grappling with, but I think the overall effect in the DEI space isn't great.
Okay.
I'd like to add that the thing about social media is that it has, as I guess, an elder millennial, we didn't grow up with social media. We didn't have computers. We were the ones that started with internet. And so to have something like social media where you can, at the touch of your fingers, know everybody's business, right? But also know what's happening in other countries that you didn't know about, right? People, I think when we're talking about our government and they're voting to take TikTok away or something like that, what are you really mad at is the question. Are you mad that all your business is now out there for the people to see, that these truths are getting out that you didn't want us to know about? Or are you mad that the kids are spending, 7-8 hours on the internet, and when you compare it to other countries, there's no access to social media, so that looks different for them, right? And we know that the studies particularly done with younger girls, issues like suicidal ideation, body image and body dysmorphia, and cyberbullying are really high compared to their male counterparts. But you're also start to see an uptake in male-identifying children as well. And so we already know that people hide behind the, how do you say teclado in English? Keyboard. Folks are very apt to hide behind the keyboard and say say it with their chest. But if you wouldn't say that to my face, right? And so I think that social media has created spaces where, yes, we can learn from one another, but also these cowardly spaces where you wouldn't normally say that in mixed company or in any company. Why would you say that here? And so our children are seeing that to the point where my children will not see social media until they're 18 years old at minimum, if I can help it. And I too have pulled back and said, okay, I locked it on my phone. I use it for work purposes and business, but is it worth it anymore? There comes a point where you have to ask that.
I guess I'm going to be the devil's advocate on this one. I think social media can be used as a tool to reach some of our youth. When it comes to, for examples like voting, education, things like that, where you can make a short video that you can capture an audience and tell them what you need them to know in a minute, 30 seconds, or whatever. I think it can help get the message out sometimes where sometimes coming to forums or going to workshops miss people. But if you can catch them in a short-term video or a YouTube video or a Facebook post, you might be able to catch someone who really wasn't aware of certain issues. So I think it can be used as a tool. I know that sometimes it is in a negative light for certain things, but I would rather it be used as a tool to help us reach those who are not attending forums like this one. Because, like, for example, we're on YouTube right now, right? So we're using social media to get the message out to those who couldn't be here today and make sure that they're aware of what's going on here. So I want it to be a positive tool in our communities.
Does anybody have a different perspective or the same perspective?
I like to speak too. There's like two forms of how I view social media. It's the good side and then the bad side. So as a teenager using social media, there's always a stereotype where the girl has to look a certain type of way, dress a certain type of way, do a certain type of way, like act a certain type of way. And then you have the side of advertising for, like, as a committee, the Mayor Hispanic Committee, Mayor Hispanic Latino Committee. We're trying to advertise using social media to gain more people, more followers, just so people can know that we are out here and we're trying to serve our community, to Hispanic and Latinos. But you can use that as a tool, but also as like a weapon, as you might say. Like stereotyping, looking at girls a certain type of way, discriminating, like not using, like social media should be more inclusive and everybody should feel a belonging, a certain type of belonging, where they shouldn't be stereotyped or disrespected for how they look and act.
Great. Anyone else? Anaja.
I agree with everyone when it comes to, for both sides, that social media can be good and social media can be bad. It is good to get the word out there, because there's things that can be translated onto social media faster than what other things can be. Like, a lot of students or a lot of people find out their news off of social media, like what's going on in Gaza and all of that stuff. There's also the toxicity of social media, where it's just like, there's that part where people are telling women how to act or what to do or how you're supposed to look, and that's where it can be toxic, because then it starts to make people feel less than themselves. And even I had to take a step back, because it's just like it was altering my mental to a point where it was just like, I feel like I should be thinking this way. It's like, no, you don't think that way. Just because you see it there does not mean it's how you're supposed to think. It's just, it kind of alters the mind of where it's like they can't think for themselves. But it's also a good tool to get the word out there and to keep people informed as well.
So you use other tools as well. I mean, you just don't depend on social media for your news or information. You kind of diversify where you
Right.
learn. Good. Okay. Sounds good. All right, Imanie?
I don't want to repeat everyone, so what I'll say is that I think we can also use social media as a way to guide our conversations when we go back and we're talking about what our organizations are doing, what our institutions are doing. I work with youth at almost every capacity, and I'm 26, so I have gone through the MySpace era, the Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, everything. So I understand how prominent social media is for those who are younger. And I think that it's very harmful. I have to take my breaks as well. But also, if we looked at it as another form of data collection, another form of being able to see what are the youth talking about, what the world is talking about, what is going on, we can, I think, be more intentional behind closed doors and making sure that our practices are still relevant for what's going on now.
Okay. What advice would you give parents out there who have kids who are, of course, on social media?
Yeah.
And you don't want to take them off of it.
Yes.
All their friends are on it. You could, but but what would you tell them? How to advise their kids?
Yes, I think in some ways it's very hard to avoid, even if your child doesn't have one. I mean, TikTok is universal. I would tell them to become a part of the conversation, but also I think now, especially for young women, there is a big need on having a personal connection with your child. Social media is very influential, but your child sees you every day. So affirmations, reassurance, so that when she gets online and she's scrolling, everything isn't so, impressionable. It's hard to try not to fit in when you aren't being directly told or supported by everyone that it's okay to do that. So I think social media is going to come up, whether it's on their phone, whether they see it on YouTube, whether a classmate shows them it, whatever the case is. But if we are instilling confidence in our children and in teaching integrity, social media won't have the same impact.
Thank you. Anybody want to add to that? Okay.
Yeah, I'll just quickly add, I think that's really good. I feel like you have to just be a part of the conversation. I feel like also just doing daily check-ins. Most of the time we're on social media daily. Personally, I'm not on social media because of the image it kind of can put in your head, but I do think having those conversations like, what was your favorite video you saw today? What was your least favorite video you saw today? And just having that conversation where you're checking in with your child, I feel like it's the most important thing. Now, mind you, I am not a parent, so who am I to say? But I just think having that vulnerability and that conversation with people can really help, or with your children can really help. Because at the end of the day, like you said, they're gonna see it regardless. And unfortunately, like everyone else has said, it is a good tool, but it's also a bad tool, just depending on how they're consuming it, how much they're consuming, and what they're looking at as well.
Okay. All right.
A couple months ago, my son said, "Why are you always on Facebook?" And that immediately made me put the phone down. And it taught me the lesson to be more present with my son, all three of them, and really spend time with them because they're watching what I'm doing. And so this is evident if you go out, whether you're at a local bar or restaurant, you see it online. Folks go out now and it's no longer about the dancing, but it's about making the video about the dancing.
Right.
So what happened to being in the moment and actually enjoying it and experiencing life versus recording life?
Right.
And so he taught me a lesson that day. Don't tell him I said that. He's not here, but I'm sure he's watching. To put the phone down and to be fully present for him and for myself.
So we set the example.
We absolutely set the example. And so when we model these behaviors, we see our children asking for phones at 8, 9 years old. And, you know, for some kids, they're riding school bus, a phone is necessary, right? If they can access it. But I think there definitely needs to be conversations that are with their child, right? Conversations that I have with him, because you're right, he might not see it at my house, but he's definitely seen somebody's TikTok at after school programming. He's like, let me tell you about this TikTok I saw, and I was like, where are you watching this? And so we have to have these conversations of like, okay, that's actually not for real, man, and let me show you what that looks like. And he's like, oh, so that's not how we talk to people? Absolutely not, right? And so it's that engagement, but because I put the phone down and I'm now able to have these conversations, for him, social media looks different because, you know, when we're talking about things like, you know, particularly with young children and having conversations that are sensitive, like sex and race and all these other things, right? I want to be able for him to be able to feel comfortable enough to come to me and ask these questions and not get it from TikTok, right? And not get it, like, you and your little friends are gonna talk, and I already know the conversations that you're having because he tells me. And I want to create that space where he feels safe to tell me and have these conversations. And also so that I can be like, that's actually not true. Let me show you where the truth is, right? Let's look at these stats and this data. But it's that engagement that is very essential. Absolutely.
Great. Okay. So we are running out of time, and I am going to ask one more question of everybody and want to direct this specifically at women, okay, young women. How can we prepare them now to become leaders of the future? I mean, you guys are young women, but say women in high school, women in college, what should they be thinking about?
Taking up space. That's it, taking up space. Okay. Because many of us were taught that you shouldn't do that. You don't take up space, you sit and you listen and you observe. And had someone in undergrad said, speak up, I would have done it way sooner than in my 40s, right? And so when Giseli came up to us and she's like, I'm interested, absolutely, come here. Let's show you how to look and read at policy, and let's show you how to fundraise, and let's show you how to do community organizing so that you can teach other young people to do the same, to take up space.
Love it.
I love that. Take up space, have a voice.
Yes.
Learn whatever it is that you want to learn to lead however it is you want to lead. That's it.
That's it. Simple, huh? Sounds simple, for sure. Okay, Tessa.
Well, I'll preface this by saying you took both of mine. That's what I was thinking. I was like, yes, take up space, have a voice, but I would also say knowledge and action are power. So what are you going to do about it? So just think about it, following that.
Nicolette.
I'd say find people with whom you can have candid conversations. You know, find mentors. They're willing to tell you the truth, tell you how things really works in practice. They're willing to share their successes and failures so that you can do better. And then also another piece is clear is kind. When we can be clear with our thoughts and tell people what we're really thinking and feeling, we're doing everyone a favor.
All right.
I love take up space.
I love it too.
I just love that. And another thing is speak up for yourself. If you're not comfortable, if you feel like this isn't right and you feel like this is something that you want to advocate for, speak up. Because there's so many times there's that term where it's just like women are meant to be seen and not heard. No, we're going to be heard. I'm going to be heard. There's so many times where I was just like, no, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to cause conflict. Shake the room. It does not matter. Speak up for yourself.
Don't be afraid to be wrong.
Exactly. There's nothing wrong with being wrong. There's nothing wrong with not knowing either. Don't be afraid to ask for
I
help.
tell my daughter all the time.
Y'all took all of the words and all of the things. No, for real, this time I don't. No, because really for me, and I was going to speak from my personal experience, the 26-year-old I am today isn't the 16-year-old I was when I was in Newark, New Jersey. And it took for people around me to help me realize my greatness and capture that, and to not fear my own voice, especially being a young Black girl. In my bio, I talk about people who are overlooked and overtalked, and I think that as especially a Black female, a lot of times our presence is exploited. We come into space and we're there just to take up space and just for our presence to be there, but our voice isn't appreciated the same way. So I think that everybody gave great advice to the youth. So I'll say this to the community, is that when you are opening these spaces for youth, understand that them being children or them being under 18 doesn't make them desensitized to feelings and things like that. They are impressionable. So make sure you are creating a space where you are horning in on that greatness.
Wow. Giseli?
As being a young person myself, I would say just like go out there, like do things, join stuff, make yourself seen, make yourself heard, make sure you're always being out there, like myself here today. Thank you for having me. And just speaking up, like just trying to find the right people to speak to, finding like the right type of advice and taking it in and then bringing it out to the community and spreading it to everybody.
Wow. Sounds good. Let's give them all a round of applause. This is excellent. Constance, you've done it again. Put together an awesome group of women from right here in our community. I mean, I could just, I'm just so proud to be a part of Durham and have women like this to represent our city and our future. Oh my gosh, wow. So we're gonna close, and I do hope tonight has been inspiring and encouraging, and actually encouraged us to appreciate all the differences that we have and the need for our own voices to be heard all the time. It is my hope that each time you see a woman, you begin to think of her as a sister, not someone who you are conflicting with or someone who is challenging you, but someone you can support and someone who's not a stranger, someone that you can lend a helping hand to. You see her strength and you see her struggle. I hope for unity as we all collaboratively work together toward inclusion, equity, which is the purpose of our program, and diversity. And most of all, I hope you enjoyed yourself here tonight at this amazing forum. And I just want to thank you all for being here and invite you out next year. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, guys. You're wonderful.